Okay. It is frigid. It is freezing. It is cold. Well, welcome to Creatives with Kids. Let's do this thing. Today we are talking about how to, one, get things done, especially when they've been like in your, like you've gotten it to 90%, you've gotten it to like almost the finish line, but whether you're at a corporation, whether you're working for yourself, whether it's just, your hobby and you're just trying to get stuff done, how do you, that's really annoying. This will go off in just a second. I have my seatbelt on, but like for some reason, sometimes it thinks the passenger seat is unbuckled or whatever. So please bear with me. Yeah, that wasn't annoying. So whether you're working for yourself, boss, whatever, somehow just the project, the to-do, whatever you're trying to get done, you can't get it to 100%. Or maybe you feel overwhelmed. Maybe you have so many projects at work. It's too much. You're on overload. You can't focus. Today we're talking about that. We're talking about deadlines. We're talking about getting things done, being motivated, starting fresh, how to win. So how I typically go about this is and this really changed the way I worked with companies I've worked with, whether that was like New Human or, being a general manager at Starbucks or King Bio, whatever. I've kind of used the same principles and learned a little bit more along the way each time. But one, you need to be able to take the initiative, which we talked a little bit about that, and I don't know which one it was. It was one or two Creatives with Kids away or ago. Two, you have to get it in your mindset, especially when you're working for somebody, that the to-dos, the tasks, they're never going to end. And if you look at that list and it's never ending, you may feel like you may feel like you're just caught in a loop and that nothing ever really feels done, or what's the purpose or what's the value and all that. I'll tell you right now that you are very much valuable. It's just the way that you structure your weeks or structure your quarters or your bi-quarters. You also have to embrace the chaos. This one took me a while to really understand and really get. But when you're at a corporation, when you're working for yourself, it's always going to be something. So you have to embrace the ocean. The ocean isn't going to change. It's not going to just all of a sudden, have less water or just decide to, not do whatever it does. You can't control the ocean. So you have to learn to ride the ocean. You have to embrace it. You have to go with the flow. That's what too many people try to do, and it really messes them up in the long run, where they try to shift the reality or shift the dynamics of the company, especially if it's just been that way for a long time. I thought back at King Bio, I was like, yeah, we can do this and we can make all this stuff happen, but you have to work with what you have. You can't just, it's not just going to change overnight. And maybe there's small micro changes that change in the future, but if you're at a place and your heart's there, your career's there, or, whatever your passion is, you're going to see things come up time and time again, and you have to be able to flow. That's why I'm able to handle like all the crazy amounts of tasks that I do at work, because I'm able to go with the flow. I don't let all these small side tasks or major projects throw me off. I might get frustrated every now and again, but for the most part, like, I'm on their dime. I'm getting paid to do whatever they want to do, and I'll use my best intuition and my best judgment to help build the company and help make, money. But at the end of the day, if you are working for someone, it is their company, it is their baby, and they make the shots. And you either go with that or you don't go with that. And if you don't go with that, it's probably game over. So learn to ride the ocean, learn to go with the flow, learn to love the chaos of it, and you'll be much better off. You won't feel as overwhelmed. Because what happens with that, and I've found, I'm doing this one for you guys today. Jesus, it is freezing, but when I turn the the heat on, it's super loud. When you learn to go with the flow, and your boss is able to see that no matter what they throw at you, and like, hey, Will, we need XYZ project. You're like, okay. And you're able to, and you're not saying okay just to like be like, hey, whatever. You're hearing the project, you're accepting it, you realize where it might fall in your time, and you kind of just like you're ready for it. You're not taking things too serious. It took me a long time to figure that out. It took me a very long time. Now, I'll say that with like grace. There are plenty of times just where you may be working on all these. So say you're riding the ocean, right? You're going with the flow. You have all these projects. You're doing all these things, but your cup is overrunning. Your cup is filled with things that you have to do. You're trying to handle them to the best of your ability. You're giving it your all. You're 100%, and you're getting these projects. Like, let's just say you start out your week with 2 projects, all right, 2 major projects. And you're doing those, and then Monday progresses, and you get 3 more, pretty normal. Okay, so you got 5 projects that you're handling. And then all of a sudden you got like 2 more little micro things that just randomly come up for the day. And then by like Wednesday, you have a full list of like 10 to 12 projects that you're working on, and because you've been spread so thin, you haven't all the like maybe project 1 you had gotten to 90%, and project 2 you'd gotten to like 80%, and the rest are like at 10%. You have to make a decision. If you have projects that are at 90% or 95% or 99%, but you continue to get more projects, you continue to get, more things that come in and hit you. If you decide to say like one of those things that come in later on, they're like an ASAP, or there's something that's just made number like C or 3 is like the main priority. If you let A rest, that 99%, that 90%, whatever, if you let that one down to rest, it's no longer going to be a 90% or a 99%. In actuality, it's going to be more like a 40%. It's going to drop down, because you're going to have to come back in later on, try to reinvest yourself and figure out where you left off, maybe get buy-in, maybe the energy was already there. So I'm a firm believer, I'm a very big believer in, if you're overwhelmed and you're getting mad projects and the projects aren't going to stop, you have to do this for yourself, you have to do this for the company. You have to finish those 90% projects. Just like take that extra hour, take that extra 30 minutes, take that extra 2 hours, whatever it is, and just knock it out of the park. Because the alternative to that is, say number 1 was 90%, and we left because priority number 3 just took priority. And then we came back next week, and it's still a deadline. It's still like something on your list that has to be done. You come back next week, you're not going to know where you're at. And what's also what it looks like in the stakeholder or the owner's mind is that you've been working on project 1 for a week and a half, when really you haven't been working on it at all because you've been handling all these other projects, and the projects continue to come at you. So in their eyes, it just looks like you're dragging your feet on that project when really you've been working your ass off getting all this stuff done. So finish that project, even if you have to take an extra 30 minutes or something. Make sure it gets done. Those 90% are critical, or else you're going to feel like you're never getting anything done. Once you finish, priority or number like A, that was really a 90% and you got it out the way, you can feel good about it. You can let them know, and they see that there's progress happening. And then you go on to that critical one or whatever. Do that, and then if you already have another one that's you're at 90% again, you just kind of repeat the cycle. Handle the ASAPs, but also handle those 90% that aren't so ASAP. They'll keep the flow going really well. Okay, moving on. How do I create promotionals that line up with the holidays, that are consistent and are how do I make promotions that line up with the holidays, that give me a sense of like getting things done and allows me to reset when that promotion is done? How do I do that? All right, this is a strategy that I formulated a few years ago. This is early on at New Human, and I felt like I was doing a lot of tasks, getting a lot of stuff done, but I never had like that sense where it was like everything, like all the work that I've been doing for like 4 weeks had like come to a close. It was just a non-stop. And you probably will feel this way at work too. It's just the way of the work field. It just is what it is. I came up with this idea, and it took me a little bit of time to map it out and figure it out, and even to get buy-in too. But I realized that there are 4 quarters in a year, and if you divide, times that by 2, that's 8 buy quarters in a year. And crazy enough, the math equals out to about 6 weeks per buy quarter, right? A lot of times what'll happen in a company, or even for yourself, more for a company, is projects never end, or you're always caught in like ASAPs. You're always caught in like, this needs to be done now, which sometimes they do, but sometimes they actually don't. So I came up with this system. My boss thought it was awesome after I just did it for the first time. I think she had to kind of see it work. Excuse me. But every 6 weeks, so for starting from January 1, and this happens to be like every a month and a half, so just kind of stick with me. Promotion 1 is from January 1 to February 14th, right? February 14th or February 15th to March 1st, or March, to restart. Sorry, January 1 to February 14th is promotion 1. February 15th to March 30th. No, 31st, sorry, 30 and 31 days in March. I don't know. Whatever the end of March is. The third promotion starts on April Fool's, so April 1 to May 15th, and so on and so forth. You kind of get the point. So it's like 1st to the 14th, 15th to the end of the month. 1st to the 14th, 15th to the end of that next month. What happens there, if you notice, right? So January 1, that is New Year's. Like, that's a New Year's promotion. If you go to the very end of that, February 14th, that happens to be Valentine's Day. Head on down to May or March 31st or March 30th. I really don't know that. It's crazy. April Fool's Day, or like the start of spring type of thing, or early spring. There are so many holidays that align with all these dates. So you have your 6 weeks, right? You take that, say we were aiming for Valentine's Day, because that's kind of where the next thing that's coming up is. You have these 6 weeks. You take 4 major priorities, big projects, not talking small little daily projects, but 4 major goals that the company wants done, that they're excited about. Oh crap. And you take those and you put them on that list. You budget maybe about a week for each of those projects, and then you kind of break down those 4 things into kind of micro tasks to be able to get them done for each week. So you kind of have a theme for each week moving forward. Say they wanted to get, I'm not going to name out what needs to, like what big projects, but just pick 4 major projects that are important priority to the boss, and you have a week for each of those. Break them down into subtasks, and that's already looking really good. Now realize that you are going to have a contingency. You're going to need, things are going to come up naturally in the company. You embrace the ocean, you embrace what that is. So you make sure that your week isn't too full to be able to take on all these additional tasks that are just going to come up. And the small other little micro tasks that are probably just hanging on, like that have nothing to do with these major projects, they usually put that in like week 5. Or it could be that they've been on the roster for a while, so they may be like on week 1 where they just kind of get done or knocked out. It's just up to you, judgment. And then I always leave the 6th week empty. Here's why. You're gonna be awesome. You've planned your contingency. You've gotten all this, like, you figured out what each week's gonna be. You've kind of broken it down. You're doing all this stuff. But no matter what, things are gonna come up, and you're gonna have more than you can really handle. And that extra week, that 1 week that you had planned just for nothing, is another, like, that's your contingency. That's gonna handle all of that overflow. So instead of being like, my cup runneth over, you've planned already for this, so therefore it's already has a spot on your schedule. So when they're like, hey, when's this gonna get done? You already know when it's gonna get done. Bam. That's right there, that's the secret. Here's why this works so well. And I haven't gotten to the very end of this promotion, but this is why it works so well. I highly recommend you try this out at work if you're feeling overwhelmed and feeling like you can't get anything done. Or when you put this on a list, or put this on a Asana, or put this on a board, however you task manage, what you're going to do is you have a board for each week, or you have a section for each week. You know, it doesn't have to be fancy. It could be list mode, it could be board mode. You're going to do what I just said and kind of break the 4 tasks, and you're at the very top, you're going to name what that major project is that's you know, taking up that week, that priority. Excuse me. Then you have all those subtasks that you already listed out. You have your contingency, so as new tasks come in, you can add that to that list. What happens is when the owner, the stakeholder, the person that you work for, or even yourself, when you come back when they come back and say, hey, what are you working on? What's going on with this? You literally could be like, bam, here goes the next 6 weeks. I have your best intentions in mind because you already asked them what their priorities are. You have them already listed out. You're getting stuff done. You're going through these weeks. And that right there is going to show initiative. That's going to give you that's how you boss up. That's how you take the initiative and make things happen for the company without them asking you to do all this extra stuff. You've planned out the next 6 weeks for them, the next promotion for them, and you took what they need and you're getting it done on your own time instead of them telling you, asking what you're doing every single day. Now, let's say week one, right? Or say week one is like one of the major tasks you're working on. Let's say you just get like a whole bunch more tasks than you expect, or you just don't get that task done. That's okay. That's just fine. Like, you do need to be working your ass off, but that happens no matter what. What you do is week one ends, you just pull those tasks from week one over to week two. And then you kind of spread a couple of little things from week two into the rest of the thing. Or if it's like the tasks that you got aren't like critically deadline important, you push them over to week 5, which was like your contingency, like your backup contingency. So you have that spare time. Don't fall behind, but you're giving yourself space, 1, to breathe, 2, to embrace the ocean, that things just come up no matter what, that you can't control, and you just kind of roll with it. 3, you're setting an expectation, a marker for the company and what you can give and what you can supply for them. 4, you're delivering. Most importantly, you don't just make the task, you deliver on it. And then 5, and this is why like week 6 I usually leave for like promotion. Like that's your week when you're going to create the newsletters. You're gonna get everything ready for this release, all the workflow, all that stuff, all the sales pipeline stuff that needs to happen. Social media, that week is for that. Whether you're developing the website, you're wrapping stuff up on that sixth week so that you can hit that mark and you deliver on that holiday. So sometimes like the 5th to 6 weeks, 1 or 2 days before it's really the holiday, or 2 or 3 days after, you just use your best judgment. Like Valentine's Day falls on February 14th, so ideally we would want to have the promotion done by February 13th, so you might just go back one day and you hit that, and you're delivering on holidays where it's really good. That is my secret promotional schedule that I use, especially when things are just like going awry. That's how I reset myself. So like talk about like resetting and feeling good about like what you've done. You've delivered on all this, you've done all this, you did 6 weeks of just like hardcore pushing, making all this work. And at the end of the day, that promotion goes out, you can put this thing to bed. You create a whole nother board, a whole nother list for Q2 or QA2, quarter A2. So I usually do QA1, QA2, QB1, QB2, just kind of like bi-quarterly stuff. You close that out and you start a whole new board and you do it all over again, and you have that sense of completion, and you don't feel like you're being rushed because you're able to plan it out again, get back your head, get back your sanity, realign with the owner. What's the next 4 priorities, that like major projects we want to get done in the next 6 weeks? And 6 weeks is a really good one. 6 weeks is enough time for stuff to happen, and not too long where it just like the project goes on forever. You work for 6 weeks and you can reset. Because usually what happens, you'll get with these companies that you guys have seen, I'm sure. They're like, oh, we're gonna do this whole release in 6 months, or oh, we're gonna do this in 3 months. It's just like 6 months is so long in space. hold on to that motivation, that drive, so 6 weeks, that's my recommendation. I moved the camera to closer to where my side mirror is, so hopefully that looks good and you're not hearing too much rattling or whatever. Okay. How do I stay motivated? How do I produce daily? And why do I do daily versus weekly? Like you, or like a lot of people, creation makes me happy. Like creating things makes me happy, which is why I do what I do. Like I'm going non-stop all the time. And when I was doing weekly, it was very hard to keep a consistent schedule. And that might seem weird that like doing daily is easier than weekly, but if you're doing a habit every single day, something just like whatever, you get into a routine of it just kind of happening and going. You accept that things aren't going to be like absolutely perfect, but they're good. They're good enough. But with weekly, what happens is you try to carve out a time on the weekend or carve out a time just in your week to be able to get this thing done. Or you spend several days trying to film or whatever, and then you have to mash that all together, and by that time you've forgotten what it's about or things come up. Daily, it's a habit, just like working out or whatever. So that's why I prefer daily over weekly, and plus it produces so much more content, so much, you get a way better picture. Okay, one last thing, and then I'm going to turn the heat on because I'm freezing in here. But I really wanted to get this out to anyone that was struggling with like feeling overwhelmed with to-dos and all that stuff. I myself was feeling overwhelmed yesterday. I think it was yesterday that I put that film out. It might be yesterday, it might be today. I don't know when I'm putting that one out. I'm just putting it out in the flow. I was feeling overwhelmed with learning a new skill set and also keeping a schedule. It's hard, And I figured out a way to reset and get back on track. Okay, let's go for an example. Let's say that one of those, say you get really behind on like that promotion or something. Like you're able to get 3 of those big major tasks, but not the 4th one. Well, you could scrape really hard to get that 4th one, which you kind of should, but let's just say it's just unrealistic to get it done. Like there's not enough time. You have 2 options. Either you can stress yourself out about that, or you drop it / move it to the next promotion, or sorry, there's a C with this one, or you accept good enough. Maybe you're being a perfectionist on this content, this whatever deliverable you're trying to get out, and you just accept that it's just going to have to be good enough versus perfect. And that's what I had to do yesterday. I was 2 films behind, and I go through each of these. I just kind of listen through it one time, but they're 40 minutes, 30 minutes, 20 minutes, whatever. I just listen through and chop it up, and I only have a certain amount of time that I can get this done in like a specific spot in my day. Like it won't happen if it's at another point in my day. And I was overwhelmed because I had a 3rd video that I was chopping up, that I wanted to chop up, but I also have these other 2 that are lingering that technically amount to an hour more work or an hour and a half more work. And this is more like my personal work. Like I'm just like, I don't have enough time. I work, and then I do my personal stuff. So only a limited amount of time. And because I film these and try to talk through them and just go with the flow, and I embrace that, like if I sniffle, whatever, they're already finished pieces, or like they're already good edits as they are. I usually just lay music under them. I usually, put a little banner Instagram thingy on top and call it a day. So yesterday I decided today's not going to be a chopping up day. Today, these 3 films that I have, I'm just going to put them out as full on pillar content. Full on 20 minute, 30 minute, 40 minutes. I'm not going to try to get micros out of these. And as soon as I did that, as soon as I made that decision, my brain just was like, it was like, whoa, blossomed into like, I'm not overwhelmed anymore because this is the actual task I can do. I'll put out these 3 things. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? I don't get to get my micro content out of this stuff. I really want to get it out, but you have to accept it. Am I going to be behind for the next 5 freaking days, continue to be behind? Or do you accept just good enough? And good enough is they're films. They're already docs that are talking about the process. And so I just exported those, and guess what? I'm back on track now. I feel good. Little hack. This one I believe I'll be chopping up. I'm back on my regular schedule of chopping, but I found a way to get back on track for these films if I do get overwhelmed. So, dope. There is one more spot for the weddings that I'm going to be doing for free. There was only 2 spots for doing like 2 weddings free because I want to kind of get in the wedding biz, like the wedding biz on the weekends, and just kind of, I really want to do that. So I'm giving away 2 weddings for free, filming them for free. Somebody's already reached out to me, and we'll be working on that together. So there's only 1 more spot. Get it, leave it, doesn't matter. But after that, the prices will, be regular wedding film prices. So grab it before that happens. All right. Hope you guys enjoyed this film on to-dos and overwhelm and just like making the most of the ocean that you live in, that you work in, embracing it, figuring it out. All right. Talk to you guys later. Bye.